I'm Michael Scott, and I've spent years piecing together stories of broken families on my YouTube channel, Connections of Hope. But nothing, prepared me for the gut punch of Dustin's story, a tale that clawed its way into my soul and refused to let go. It's April 2025 now, and I'm still reeling from the weight of it, the way it unravels the raw, jagged edges of love, loss, and betrayal. This isn't just a story I'm telling, it's a wound I'm reopening, a fire I'm stoking, because I was there when the truth about Dustin's life came crashing down. Let me take you back to where it all began, Saigon, 1975, a city choking on its final breaths as the Vietnam War bled out. Picture it, Saigon streets are a fever dream of chaos. The air hums with the drone of helicopters, the crack of distant gunfire, the wails of families clutching suitcases and children, desperate to escape. It's April, and the city's pulse is a death rattle. I can almost taste the dust, feel the heat sticking to my skin as I imagine those final days. The newsreels I've watched 100 times flicker in my mind, mothers sobbing, soldiers sprinting, and kids like Dustin, wide-eyed and lost, caught in a war they couldn't understand. Dustin was just 3, born August 2, 1971, a half-American boy with his mother's dark eyes and a father he'd never know. His existence, like so many Amerasian kids, was a scarlet letter in a country unraveling at the seams. I close my eyes, and I'm there, in the heart of it, where Dustin's mother, Ellen, made a choice that would haunt her for half a century. Ellen was 26 then, born in 1949, a woman carved from resilience but fraying under the weight of survival. She had 5 kids, Dustin among them, and a life tethered to Saigon's crowded alleys. Her sister, Lily, was leaving, fleeing to the Philippines or maybe America with her own brood, kids from her Vietnamese and Filipino husbands. Lily begged Ellen to come, to pile into the boat and sail toward a future that didn't reek of gunpowder. But Ellen couldn't. Her kids were her anchor, her reason to stay, even as the ground shook beneath her. She trekked to Vũng Tàu, a coastal city, to say goodbye to Lily, a journey that should have taken hours but stretched into a nightmare. I can feel Ellen's dread as she stood on that dock, watching Lily's boat vanish into the horizon. The war was closing in, and she had to get back to Saigon, to Dustin, to her other children, Tom, Sarah, Emma, and Jake. But the roads were choked, buses stalled, and the world was a snarl of panic. 5 days. 5 days of walking, of hunger gnawing at her bones, of fear clawing at her throat. I imagine her whispering Dustin's name like a prayer, her feet blistered, her heart hammering with the need to hold him again. She didn't know, couldn't know, that while she fought her way home, a betrayal was unfolding, one that would rip her family apart and leave her grasping at shadows. Here's where the knife twists. Ellen trusted her sister-in-law, a woman whose name I'll keep vague because it's not her story to claim. This sister-in-law was watching Dustin and her own 4 kids, a makeshift guardian in a city on fire. But she was drowning, too many mouths, too much fear, too little time. Enter Clara, a neighbor, a friend of Lily's, a woman who seemed like a lifeline. Clara was supposed to take Dustin to Trà Vinh, a quiet town where the war's claws hadn't fully dug in. Ellen's sister-in-law handed over Dustin's birth certificate, a flimsy piece of paper that held his identity, and entrusted him to Clara. It was meant to be temporary, a safe haven until Ellen returned. But Clara didn't go to Trà Vinh. She didn't stay in Vietnam. And that's where the betrayal cuts deepest. I'm shaking as I think about it, my coffee cold on the desk, my studio lights too bright. I've told stories of loss before, but this one, it's personal. When I first heard Clara's side, years later, I wanted to scream. She took Dustin to Tan Son Nhut Airport, right as the U.S. was airlifting kids like him out of Saigon. Operation Baby Lift, they called it, a frantic scramble to save Amerasian children from a future that looked like ash. Clara, who barely spoke English, waved Dustin's birth certificate, pointed at him, and somehow convinced the soldiers he was hers. On April 30, 1975, as Saigon fell, she boarded a plane with Dustin, leaving everything, her own infant son, her past, her promises, behind. She flew to America, to a life she hadn't planned, and Dustin became her son in a new world Ellen didn't know. She couldn't have. When she staggered back to Saigon, her body aching, her hope fraying, she found her home empty of Dustin. I see her in my mind, collapsing to her knees, her hands clawing at the air where her boy should have been. The sister-in-law stammered excuses. Clara took him, she said, to Trà Vinh. But Trà Vinh was a lie, a ghost town in Ellen's search. She scoured bus stations, villages, anywhere Dustin might be, her voice breaking as she called his name. The betrayal wasn't just Clara's, it was the war's, the sister-in-law's, the world's. Ellen's heart was a battlefield, torn between love for her son and the searing pain of his absence. I leaned back in my chair, my throat tight. I've spent hours poring over Ellen's story, Dustin's story, Clara's story. Each one is a shard of glass, sharp and jagged, cutting me as I try to fit them together. Dustin grew up in America, raised by Clara, speaking English, building a life with a wife and 2 kids. He's 53 now, a man with questions he buried deep. Ellen, 75 and frail, never stopped searching, her other children carrying her grief like a shared wound. And Clara, who made a choice that saved Dustin but broke Ellen, carried her own secrets, her own scars. This story isn't just about loss, it's about the collision of choices, the way they ripple across decades. When I got the call from Emma, Dustin's sister, in 2023, begging me to find her brother, I felt it, the weight of 49 years, the ache of a mother's empty arms. When Clara reached out in 2024, her voice trembling, I knew this was bigger than my channel, bigger than me. And when Rachel, a viewer, connected their stories, I swear I felt the universe shift. I'm Michael Scott, and I'm telling you this because I was there when the truth came out, when the betrayal was laid bare, when Ellen and Dustin's worlds collided again. Saigon, 1975, was just the beginning. The real story is what happened after, the search, the hope, the DNA test that changed everything. Buckle up, because this one's going to break your heart and put it back together. I'm Michael Scott, still reeling from the story of Dustin and Ellen, my heart pounding as I dive deeper into the moment that tore them apart. Saigon, April 1975, was a pressure cooker, and I can still feel the heat of that city's collapse, the way it crushed families like Ellen's under its weight. I'm sitting in my studio, the glow of my laptop screen casting shadows, but my mind's back there, in the chaos where a single choice, a betrayal, changed everything. This is the part where the knife twists, where Ellen's world shattered and Dustin's life took a turn no one saw coming. I'm telling you this because I felt the gut punch of it, the raw agony of a mother betrayed, and I'm not letting you look away. As Ellen stumbled into Saigon after 5 days of walking, her heart shattered, she clutched the air where Dustin should have been, unaware he was already soaring toward America with Clara. I see her in my head, her knees buckling in that cramped apartment, her voice a broken whisper, "Dustin? Where's my boy?" The room must have spun, the walls closing in as her sister-in-law stammered, "Clara took him to Trà Vinh." Trà Vinh, a lie that lodged in Ellen's chest like shrapnel. She didn't know Clara was gone, that Dustin, her 3-year-old with those big, curious eyes, was on a plane, strapped into a seat next to a woman who'd just rewritten his future. I choke up thinking about it, my hands gripping my desk. How do you lose a child and not lose yourself? Let's rewind a bit, because this betrayal didn't happen in a vacuum. Ellen was in Vũng Tàu, her feet raw from saying goodbye to her sister, Lily, who'd sailed off with her own kids, bound for somewhere safer. Ellen's sister-in-law, let's call her Jane, because naming her feels too personal, was left holding the fort. Jane had 4 kids of her own, plus Dustin, in a city where bombs were rumors and food was a gamble. I picture her, frazzled, her hair a mess, trying to keep 5 kids fed while the radio blared warnings of the North's advance. She was drowning, and Dustin, with his half-American features, was a lightning rod for trouble in a place where Amerasian meant danger. Enter Clara, the neighbor, Lily's friend, the woman who'd become the pivot point of this tragedy. Clara was older, maybe in her 30s, with a calm that masked her own fears. Jane trusted her, hell, who wouldn't? Clara had a plan: take Dustin to Trà Vinh, her hometown, where the war's shadow was fainter. Jane handed over Dustin's birth certificate, a faded green slip that proved he was Ellen's, and watched Clara scoop him up. I imagined Dustin's tiny hand clutching Clara's shirt, his face confused but trusting. Jane thought she was saving him, giving Ellen one less worry. She didn't know she'd just handed Dustin to a stranger who'd break every promise. Clara didn't go to Trà Vinh. I'm shaking as I type this, my coffee mug cold beside me. She went to Tân Sơn Nhất Airport, where the US was running Operation Babylift, airlifting Amerasian kids out of Saigon before the city fell. The place was a madhouse, soldiers shouting, mothers screaming, kids crying as planes roared overhead. Clara, who spoke maybe 10 words of English, pushed through the crowd, Dustin on her hip, his birth certificate her only leverage. I see her now, her jaw set, her eyes darting as she waved that paper at a harried American soldier. My son, she must have gestured, pointing at Dustin, her heart racing. The soldier, too tired to question, waved her through. Just like that, Clara and Dustin were on a plane, April 30th, 1975, the day Saigon's heart stopped. I want to scream at Clara, to grab her by the shoulders and ask why. Why didn't she wait for Ellen? Why didn't she tell Jane the truth? But I know why. Fear is a hell of a drug, and Saigon was a death trap. Clara had her own infant son back home, left with relatives, and she saw a way out, not just for her, but for Dustin, whose mixed blood made him a target. She didn't plan this, it was a snap decision, a reflex born of panic. She boarded that plane, Dustin's head on her shoulder, and left Vietnam behind, along with her promises to Jane. To Ellen, to herself. I hate her for it, but I get it, and that contradiction burns me up inside. Ellen, meanwhile, was unraveling. When Jane's words sank in, Clara took him to Trà Vinh, Ellen's hope clung to that lie. She dragged herself to bus stations, her voice hoarse from calling Dustin's name, her eyes scanning every child's face. I picture her standing in the rain, her clothes soaked, whispering, "He's out there. He has to be." But Trà Vinh was empty, a dead end. Jane's betrayal wasn't malicious, it was negligence, a failure to follow through, to confirm Clara's plans. And Clara's betrayal? It was a theft, even if she didn't see it that way. She took Dustin's past, his mother, his identity, and gave him a new life without asking if it was hers to give. My throat's tight now, my studio too quiet. I've read the letters Ellen wrote years later, the ones Emma shared with me, where she described those days as a fog of pain. She didn't blame Jane, not fully, she knew the war made monsters of everyone. But Clara? Ellen didn't know Clara's name then, only that someone had stolen her son. The betrayal festered, a wound that never healed, even as she raised Tom, Sarah, Emma, and Jake, her other kids, who felt Dustin's absence like a ghost in their home. I'm Michael Scott, and I'm telling you this because I felt Ellen's pain when Emma first called me in 2023, her voice cracking as she begged for help. I felt it again when Clara's email landed in 2024. Her words heavy with guilt. The separation wasn't just a moment, it was a fracture that spanned 49 years, a betrayal that left Ellen grasping at air and Dustin growing up a world away, unaware of the mother who'd die for him. This story's not over. Clara's choice, Ellen's loss, they're just the beginning. Stick with me, because the truth is coming, and it's going to hit like a freight train. I'm Michael Scott, and I'm still haunted by the fracture that split Dustin from Ellen in 1975, a betrayal that's been gnawing at me since I started unraveling this story for Connections of Hope. My studio's a cocoon of silence tonight, but my head's screaming with the weight of what came next, the decades of silence, the lives built on opposite sides of the world, the betrayal that festered like a wound nobody could see. Saigon's chaos faded, but the pain it left behind? That's the real story, the one that claws at my chest as I piece together how Dustin grew up an ocean away from Ellen, both of them carrying holes in their hearts they couldn't name. This is Life Apart, and it's a slow burn that'll break you. Dustin was 3 when Clara carried him onto that plane, his tiny world upended as Saigon vanished beneath the clouds. I picture him now, a kid with no memory of his mother's voice, growing up in suburban America, think picket fences, 4th of July barbecues, and Saturday morning cartoons. Clara gave him a new name, a new life, raising him as her own in a small California town. By 2025, Dustin's 53, a man with a steady job, a wife who loves him, and 2 kids, 24 and 21, who call him Dad. He's the guy you'd see coaching Little League or flipping burgers at a backyard cookout, all smiles and stability. But there's a shadow in his eyes, one I caught when I first saw his photo. It's the shadow of a question he buried deep: who am I? Really? Clara was his rock, don't get me wrong. She poured everything into him: school, college, a shot at the American dream. But she paid a price. I see her in my mind, a single mom in a new country, working double shifts at a diner, her hands cracked from dishwater, her heart heavy with the son she left behind in Vietnam. Clara's own infant boy was with relatives back home, and she didn't see him again for years. That's the kind of sacrifice that guts you, the kind that makes you wonder if she ever forgave herself for what she did to Ellen. She told Dustin the truth when he was a teenager, maybe 15, sitting him down at their kitchen table with a photo of Saigon and a story he couldn't fully grasp. "You had another mother," she said, her voice cracking. Dustin nodded, but he didn't push. He'd tried searching once, through some adoption program, and got nowhere. The betrayal wasn't Clara's alone, it was the system's, the wars, the world's, and it left him scared to hope. I'm shaking as I think about Dustin staring at that photo. A faded snapshot of a city he didn't remember. I imagine him tracing the edges, feeling a pull he couldn't explain, like a song stuck in his head with no lyrics. He built a life, sure, married his high school sweetheart, got a house with a mortgage, cheered at his kids' soccer games, but that question never left. It was there in the quiet moments, when he'd catch his reflection and wonder about the woman who gave him those dark eyes. My throat's tight now, my coffee gone cold. I've seen the emails Dustin sent me later, his words careful but raw: I want to know her, but what if she's gone? That's the turmoil, the fear of betrayal by fate itself, and it's eating me up as I tell this. Across the Pacific, Ellen was fighting her own war. She's 75 now, her body frail, her hair silver, but back then, she was a mother on fire, searching for Dustin in every corner of Vietnam. I see her trudging to Bac Lu, a coastal town, her shoes worn thin, asking strangers if they'd seen a boy with her son's face. Bus stations, markets, dusty roads, she haunted them all, her voice a plea: his name's Dustin. He's mine. But the trails went cold, and the lie about Trà Vinh, fed to her by Jane, her sister-in-law, was a ghost that never stopped haunting. Ellen didn't know Clara had taken Dustin to America, didn't know her boy was learning English, eating peanut butter sandwiches, living a life she couldn't imagine. The betrayal cut deeper with every empty lead. Every night she lay awake, picturing Dustin's tiny hand slipping from hers. Ellen raised her other kids, Tom, Sarah, Emma, and Jake, in a home shadowed by loss. They felt it too, the absence of a brother they barely knew. I've read Emma's letters, the ones she sent me in 2023, describing their mom as a woman who smiled for them but cried when she thought no one saw. Ellen kept her pain private, a locked box she only opened in secret. She'd sit by the window, clutching Dustin's old blanket, whispering prayers he was safe. Her kids grew up, had kids of their own, but Dustin's ghost never left. I'm choking up now, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The betrayal wasn't just Clara's or Jane's, it was Time's, stealing 49 years from a mother who'd have walked through fire for her son. Clara, in her own way, was trapped too. By 2024, she'd retired, her hair gray, her hands still carrying the weight of that choice. She'd reunited with her own son, but the guilt of taking Dustin never faded. I imagine her at night, staring at old photos, wondering if Ellen was still out there, still searching. When she emailed me, her words were heavy: I saved him, but I broke her. That's the turmoil I'm drowning in, the clash of love and betrayal, the way Clara's act was both salvation and theft. She gave Dustin a life, but at what cost? I want to yell at her, to demand answers, but I know she's been asking herself the same questions for decades. I'm Michael Scott, and this story's got me by the throat. Dustin's life in America, Ellen's endless search, Clara's quiet guilt, they're threads in a tapestry of betrayal that I'm still untangling. My studio's too small for this, my heart too raw. When Emma reached out in 2023, begging me to find Dustin, I felt Ellen's pain like a punch. When Clara's email came in 2024, I saw the pieces of a puzzle I didn't know I'd been solving. The betrayal of 1975 wasn't the end, it was the start of two lives apart, and the road to bringing them back together is one I'm still walking. Keep up, because this story's about to turn. I'm Michael Scott, and I'm still caught in the undertow of Dustin and Ellen's story, my heart raw from the decades they spent apart, betrayed by war, lies, and choices that weren't theirs. My Connections of Hope studio feels too small for this, the walls pressing in as I relive the moment hope flickered back to life. The betrayal of 1975, Clara's flight with Dustin, Jane's careless handoff, left scars that stretched across continents, but in 2023, a spark ignited, and I was there, trembling, as the pieces of this broken family started to align. This is the search, the connection, and it's a roller coaster that nearly broke me. It started with Emma, Dustin's sister, her voice cracking over the phone in 2023. I was sipping coffee, scrolling emails, when she called, desperate. My mom's dying inside, she said, looking for her son, taken by some woman named Clara. Ellen's story poured out, her endless hunts for Dustin, her nights clutching his old blanket, her frail body fading at 75. I felt it like a punch, the betrayal Ellen carried, not just from Clara but from a world that let her son vanish. Emma's plea was raw, find Dustin, give her mom peace before it's too late. I promised I'd try, but my hands shook as I hung up. I'd done reunion stories before, but this one. It was a needle in a haystack, and I was terrified I'd fail. I posted Emma's story on my channel, a video titled Lost Son of Saigon. I described Dustin, the Amerasian boy swept away in 1975, and Ellen's search, her pain a living thing. Views climbed, comments poured in, but no leads. I'd refresh my inbox like a man possessed, hoping for a clue, my gut twisting with every dead end. Ellen's face, etched in Emma's photos, haunted me, those eyes, hollow from loss, daring me to keep going. I couldn't let her down, but the betrayal's shadow loomed large, mocking me. What if Dustin was gone? What if Clara had erased him completely? Then, in 2024, Clara's email hit my inbox like a lightning bolt. I was in my studio, late, the glow of my laptop my only company. I raised a boy named Dustin, she wrote, her words heavy with guilt. I took him from Saigon. I need to find his mother, Ellen. My heart stopped. Clara, the woman who'd betrayed Ellen, was reaching out, her retirement stirring memories she couldn't bury. She detailed 1975, Lily's friendship, Jane's handover, the airport chaos. It matched Emma's story like a puzzle snapping together. I wanted to scream at Clara, to demand why she'd waited 49 years, but her email bled remorse. I saved him, but I broke her. That's the turmoil tearing me apart. Clara's act was love and theft, and I was caught in its crossfire. I needed proof, something to bridge Emma and Clara. That's when Rachel, a viewer, became my miracle. Picture a Vietnamese-American mom, up past midnight, scrolling YouTube on her phone. Rachel watched Clara's video, then Emma's, her pulse racing as names, Ellen, Dustin, Clara, Lily, clicked. She messaged me at 2 a.m., her words frantic, Michael, these are the same people. I read it bleary-eyed, my coffee cold, and felt the universe shift. My team, led by Hannah, dug in, cross-checking details, Dustin's birth date, Lily's departure, Clara's Trà Vinh lie. It was airtight. I called Emma, my voice shaking. We found Clara, I said. She has Dustin. Emma sobbed, and I choked up, the weight of Ellen's pain crashing over me. I arranged a call between Ellen and Clara, my heart pounding as I dialed. Ellen, frail in her Saigon home, saw Clara's photos of Dustin, his childhood, his smile, his life in America. "That's my boy," she whispered, tears streaming. Clara nodded, her face crumpled with guilt. I watched, my throat tight, as Ellen forgave the woman who'd taken her son, her grace cutting me deeper than anger ever could. But Dustin, cautious after a lifetime apart, needed more. "I want a DNA test," he said via email, his words guarded. I got it. Betrayal had burned him before, and he wasn't risking his heart without proof. I'm Michael Scott, and this search, this connection, nearly undid me. Emma's call. Clara's confession, Rachel's late-night message, they're the threads pulling Dustin and Ellen back together, but the betrayal's shadow lingers. My studio's a mess, papers strewn, my soul heavier than ever. The DNA test is coming, and with it, the truth. Hold on, because this story's about to explode. Tears streamed down Ellen's face as Hannah's voice rang out, "The DNA matches, Dustin is your son." And in that instant, 49 years of betrayal dissolved into a sob that shook my core. I'm Michael Scott, host of Connections of Hope, and I'm still trembling from that moment on April 19, 2025, when Ellen and Dustin, torn apart by war and lies, became mother and son again. My studio's a blur, my heart pounding as I relive this climax, the weight of Clara's betrayal and Ellen's pain crashing into a reunion that nearly broke me. This is the end of their separation, the resolution of a wound I've carried since Emma's first call, and it's a story that demands you feel every jagged edge. I was on that video call, my screen split between Ellen in Saigon, her frail hands shaking, and Dustin in California, his eyes wide with disbelief. Clara was there too, her face etched with guilt and relief, while Emma and interpreter Kate bridged the language gap. When Hannah, my team's DNA expert, read the results from Vietnam's lab, the air felt electric. Ellen clutched a photo of 3-year-old Dustin, her voice a whisper, my boy, my boy." Dustin's voice broke as he said, "I'm home, Mom," and I swear I felt the earth shift. I choked up, my coffee mug forgotten, my studio too small for the joy and pain colliding. The betrayal, Clara's flight with Dustin, Jane's lie about Trà Vinh, had kept them apart for decades. And now, truth was stitching them back together. But the turmoil didn't end there. I saw it in Dustin's eyes, the 53-year-old man wrestling with a lifetime of questions. He'd grown up American, with Clara's love, a wife, 2 kids, 24 and 21, and a life of barbecues and PTA meetings. Yet he'd always felt a void, a betrayal by the past he couldn't name. Now, facing Ellen on that screen, he was meeting the mother he'd lost, the one who'd searched bus stations and villages, her heart bleeding for him. I wanted to hug him, to tell him it's okay to feel betrayed by Clara's choice, by the war that stole his roots. His plan to learn Vietnamese, to visit Vietnam with a passport his siblings helped him get, felt like a reclaiming, a middle finger to the forces that kept him away. Ellen, 75 and fading, was a beacon of grace. I saw her forgive Clara, her voice soft but firm, "You kept him safe." That gutted me. How does a mother betrayed so deeply find that strength? Ellen's other kids, Tom, Sarah, Emma, Jake, rallied around her, their faces lit with hope. They'd grown up with Dustin's ghost, and now he was real, a brother they'd meet soon. Clara, planning on April 30, 2025 trip to Vietnam for a family memorial, nodded through tears, her guilt easing but never gone. I'm torn, even now, between admiring Clara's sacrifice and raging at her for taking Dustin without a word. That's the conflict burning in me, the betrayal's shadow lingers, even in this joy. The community made this happen. Rachel's 2 a.m. message, connecting Emma's and Clara's videos, was the spark. My viewers, 1,000 strong, shared the story, their comments a chorus of hope. I addressed the haters too, those calling Clara a thief, because Ellen's words shut them down, "She saved my son." I'm still shaken by the trolls, the betrayal of their judgment, but Ellen's grace is my North Star. This reunion, broadcast on my channel, hit millions, a testament to love's endurance. I offered Rachel $500 for her role, a small thank you for a miracle. I'm Michael Scott, and this story's changed me. My studio's a mess, my heart fuller but heavier. Dustin's planning to hug Ellen in Vietnam. Maybe with Clara there, and I've promised to film it, to capture a moment 49 years in the making. Ellen's health is fragile, adding urgency, and I pray she holds on. The betrayal of 1975, Clara's act, Jane's negligence, the war's cruelty, isn't erased, but it's overshadowed by this resolution. I'm still wrestling with it, the way love and pain coexist, the way truth can heal but never fully mend. So, what do you think? Can forgiveness ever outweigh betrayal, or does the past always leave a scar? Drop a comment, share your take, because I'm still grappling with this one, and I need to hear from you.